My wife beat and kicked me for her 8th lover, leaving me sterile. She also meticulously planned and framed the deaths of my father and younger brother. After all I endured, I finally saw the truth. I gathered evidence and exposed their crimes. She eventually went bankrupt, everyone abandoned her, and in despair, she killed herself. Her lover received a life sentence for murdering my brother. But the root of it all wasn't just because of this. Returning home after 2 years overseas, I found the house filled with 8 young, handsome men. Gu Minglan's expression was composed. Just business obligations, people insisted. It was just for show. Since you're back, I'll have them leave. I personally saw each of them out. The last one, a man named Lu Xingyi, deliberately smashed my mother's photo on his way out. I slapped him on the spot and sent him back to the nightclub. That night, Gu Minglan worked in her study all night. The next day, she was unusually gentle towards me, but only a few days later, my father died instantly in a car accident, and my brother fell down the stairs and was left in a vegetative state. I stumbled onto the rooftop in a daze, only to hear her talking to someone downstairs. Ms. Gu, Lu Xingyi has been settled in the villa on the outskirts of the city to recover. Your husband's family, they've all been handled. Ms. Gu, if Mr. Su finds out about this, he might have a breakdown. The subordinate hesitated. So what if he knows? She sneered. Where could he possibly go? I trembled all over, gripping the wall as I slowly made my way down. It turned out that all the disasters that befell my family were simply because I had touched the young man she held so dear. I pulled out my phone and dialed a number I hadn't touched in ages. Hello, I need to see that person. I stood by my brother's hospital bed, looking at his peaceful sleeping face, my throat tight. Turning away numbly, I somehow found myself back on the rooftop. Suddenly, I heard a familiar voice from downstairs. Have Lu Xingyi's supplements been sent? Yes, Ms. Gu, the assistant replied respectfully. Mr. Lu said he's been having nightmares at night and wants to see you. Okay, she paused. Is the rehabilitation center arranged? We've booked the most expensive treatment package, 1.28 million. Also, the Seaview Villa and the Lamborghini you instructed have been transferred into Mr. Lu's name. Gu Minglan's voice suddenly softened. He's frail. Pay close attention to him, don't let him be mistreated. After all, he's the father of my first child. My fingers clenched violently. The assistant hesitated before speaking. And Mr. Su Linchuan. Gu Minglan's tone turned ice cold. He dared to send Xingyi to a place like the nightclub. He should have expected the consequences. My breath hitched. Gu Minglan sneered. That Su family, they all deserve to die. But, the assistant hesitated, the patriarch of the Su family died in a car accident, and the young master fell into a vegetative state. If Mr. Su finds out it was all you, he might have a breakdown. So what if he knows? She sneered. Who else can he trust now but me? A cold wind blew, leaving me trembling. It turned out my father's car accident, my brother's accident, were all orchestrated by her. All because of that man named Lu Xingyi. How ironic. That day, Lu Xingyi himself had said, helplessly, I grew up in clubs like that. I had just sent him back to the home he spoke of. The woman who slept beside me every night had destroyed my entire family, for a man from the clubs. I pressed myself against the wall, my heart feeling like a piece had been ripped out. One more thing, Gu Minglan suddenly lowered her voice. Find a way to make Su Linchuan permanently lose the ability to have children. I want the Su family bloodline to completely disappear from the city's elite. My blood ran cold. Over the years, I had brought up wanting children multiple times, but Gu Minglan always had 1,000 reasons to make excuses. Afraid of pain, afraid of postpartum depression, afraid her own body couldn't handle it. She always said, Linchuan, we have plenty of time. Downstairs finally fell silent. I leaned against the wall, slowly making my way downstairs, my legs so weak I could barely stand. Linchuan. As I reached the main entrance, Gu Minglan's voice suddenly sounded behind me. I flinched violently, nearly falling. She grabbed my shoulder. Why are you trembling so much? I bit my lip. Maybe the wind, it's a bit cold. When her fingers touched my shoulder, my body went rigid. Back in the villa, I pulled the covers over me, and curled up in bed. The image of my father covered in blood and my brother's unconscious face wouldn't leave my mind. The most terrifying thing was, she didn't just want to destroy my family, she wanted to sever the Su family bloodline. A horrifying suspicion formed, could the vitamins she had been giving me all these years actually be? I grabbed my car keys, not even stopping to put on shoes before rushing to the garage. I had to go to the hospital immediately for a checkup. I needed the truth now. Just as I burst out the gate, blinding headlights blazed directly into my eyes. I froze on the spot. A car was accelerating towards me. Crash. In the instant searing pain swept through me, I faintly saw Gu Minglan standing at the second-floor window. When I woke up again, she was holding my hand, wearing a sorrowful expression. Lin Chuan, you were hit by a car. Your vas deferens were severely damaged. You've already undergone a vasectomy. I stared blankly at her red-rimmed eyes, a wave of nausea rising in my stomach. The heart monitor suddenly let out a piercing alarm, and I lost consciousness again. I had a very long dream. In the dream, I was back at the college dance, Gu Minglin walking towards me under the spotlight, her eyes shining like stars. She was pure and passionate back then, waiting all night outside the men's dorm just to bring me breakfast, secretly working for 3 months just to buy me limited edition sneakers. When my father found out we were dating, he adamantly opposed it. She's a girl from the slums. What kind of life can you expect marrying someone like that? I knelt on the cold study floor. Dad, she's different. She earns scholarships every year, hundreds of times better than those pampered rich girls. My father finally nodded, his eyes red-rimmed. On the day we got our marriage certificate, Gu Minglin's hands holding the paper were trembling. Lin Chuan, I'll make you the happiest man. But after we married, she gradually changed. Sometimes tender and loving, sometimes volatile and unpredictable. I felt like I was walking on a tightrope, never knowing if the next moment would be affection, or the silent treatment, until the school offered me an opportunity to teach abroad. I practically fled. Why isn't he waking up? Gu Minglin's voice was faint and distant. I tried hard to open my eyes, but I felt trapped in the dream. Her voice sounded so anxious, as if she were still the woman who deeply loved me back then. A tear slipped uncontrollably from my eye. Someone gently wiped away my tear. Ms. Gu. Why did you have to go this far? He is your husband, after all. Gu Minglin's voice instantly turned ice cold. The Su family owes me this. Back then, when my father, Su Genqiang, forcibly demolished our village, my parents refused to move and were beaten to death by them. I was 12, hiding in the closet, listening to my parents' screams. All these years of suffering, living as a dependent who will pay for that. But Mr. Su won't be able to in the future, that's for the best. Her voice held a chilling coldness. I will never let the Su family's tainted bloodline continue. I will wipe out their lineage. A dull ache spread through my chest. I clenched my fists tightly under the covers. Finally, I laboriously opened my heavy eyelids. Gu Minglin immediately came to the bedside, her face filled with concern. Lin Chuan, feeling any better? Seeing me not respond, she sat on the edge of the bed and gently held my hand. Don't be sad. It doesn't matter if we don't have children. I'll always be with you. I leaned my face against her shoulder, and where she couldn't see, I managed a smile that felt more like a grimace. After spending a month in the hospital, I was finally discharged. Strangely, Gu Minglin didn't come to pick me up, only sending a driver to take me back to the villa. Pushing open the familiar door, the home that had once been filled with laughter was now eerily silent. The only reason I stayed was to find evidence of my father's and brother's murders. There was a sound at the door. Someone pushed it open and entered. A tall, handsome man walked in, the collar of his shirt marked with fresh lipstick prints. Gu Minglin saw me, her expression stiffening, then quickly explained, Lin Chuan, when I was attacked by a competitor last week, he took a knife for me. He needs rest. She paused, her gaze shifting. He's frail. I couldn't just leave him out there. I suppressed the urge to vomit and calmly nodded. I understand. Gu Minglin visibly relaxed and turned to instruct the staff. Take good care of Mr. Liu. The following days were calm on the surface. Until one evening at dinner, Liu Xingyi insisted on pouring me a drink. I impatiently pushed his hand away. Don't touch me. He withdrew his hand, a cold, calculating look flashing in his eyes. Suddenly, he clutched his abdomen and bent over in pain. Alcohol, the doctor said my wound shouldn't touch alcohol. Liu Xingyi pointed at me, his voice trembling. It was you want my wound to get worse. I didn't do anything, I said coldly. Gu Minglin's eyes turned to ice. She quickly helped Liu Xingyi up. I'll take you to the hospital. They returned late that night. Liu Xingyi looked deathly pale. Gu Minglin's voice was ice cold. Lin Chuan, you went too far. My heart felt a sharp pang. Liu Xingyi spoke weakly. Mr. Su, I know you're upset about the vasectomy, but you can't play with someone's life. I just sneered. Gu Minglin suddenly grabbed my wrist. Apologize. I didn't do anything. I struggled. Liu Xingyi conveniently started coughing violently, the fury in Gu Minglin's eyes intensified. Fine. If you won't admit you're wrong. She gestured to the bodyguards, who dragged me out to the courtyard. The bodyguards pinned me to the ground. A bowl of shrimp was brought before me. Since you won't apologize. Gu Minglin's voice was cruelly sweet. Taste this. Scalding hot shrimp was stuffed into my mouth. I choked, tears streaming down my face. My entire body instantly broke out in a rash, and breathing became increasingly difficult. Apologize, she demanded coldly, her eyes filled with disgust. I stubbornly turned my head away, clenching my teeth. The feeling of suffocation intensified. I finally collapsed onto the ground, convulsing, losing consciousness. She knew better than anyone that I was severely allergic to seafood, that it could be deadly. I blacked out completely. When I opened my eyes again, Gu Minglin was standing by the hospital bed, her expression complex. Su Linchuan, her voice held suppressed anger. Why can't you just admit you were wrong? Lu Xingyi conveniently appeared at the doorway, his eyes red-rimmed. Ms. Gu, never mind. Mr. Su looks down on men from the club like me. He wants to get rid of me. I understand. As he spoke, his gaze subtly shifted to Gu Minglin's abdomen. Suddenly, a young nurse rushed in a panic. Are Su Lang's family here? My heart plummeted. What's wrong? The nurse looked grave. The patient's ventilator had been dislodged. By the time we found it, it was too late. Impossible. I shot up from the bed, but my legs gave out, and I fell heavily to the ground. Looking up, I came face to face with Lu Xingyi's incredibly smug, cold smile. I scrambled to my feet, and rushed at Lu Xingyi. Was it you? He suddenly staggered, and cried out. What are you doing? Gu Minglin kicked me squarely. Su Linchuan. I lay on the ground. The physical pain was nothing compared to the pain in my heart. In the morgue, I sobbed uncontrollably, holding my brother's cold body, my trembling fingers tracing his face, so like my own. Brother. Wake up. Please wake up. I felt like I'd cried all the tears I had. Gu Minglin tried to pull me up, but I clung to my brother as if rooted to the spot. Let's get a divorce, I said, staring at her blankly. Her eyes widened sharply. What did you say? Since you have a new lover and are having a child. Let's get a divorce. I'll get out of your way. Never, she suddenly flew into a rage. You can't stand him, can you? He took a knife for me, tears streamed down my face. I have no family left. Just let me go. You think you're the only one who's lost family, she roared. Where were you when my parents were brutally killed? Xingyi's family are gone too. And you? You threw him, injured, into the nightclub. I watched her lose control, a sneer on my face. Lu Xingyi conveniently burst into tears. Mr. Su, if my family wasn't poor, I wouldn't have had to work at the club. I knelt and begged you not to send me away. You clearly knew how dangerous it was there, but you still sent me back. If Ms. Gu hadn't gotten there in time, I would have. Seeing Gu Minglin destroy my entire family for a man from the club, I started laughing hysterically. Mr. Su is unstable, Gu Minglin instructed coldly. Give him a sedative. A metallic taste filled my mouth. I quietly allowed the needle to pierce my skin. When I woke up again, the room was empty, my phone lit up. Lu Xingyi had posted an update online 3 minutes ago. High-end restaurants, luxury stores, a racetrack, each one deliberately tagging me. I sneered and blocked him, then dialed a number I hadn't touched in ages. The hospital was eerily quiet late at night. Changing out of the hospital gown, I got into the waiting Maybach. As the car drove away, Gu Minglin's car passed ours. Goodbye, Gu Minglin. In the ancestral hall of the old Mu family estate, sandalwood incense curled gently in the air. A white-haired and bearded elder sat solemnly in a Huangwali wood chair. An aura of authority radiated from him, even without a frown. He slowly raised his eyes, his piercing gaze sizing me up. Your old man sus grandson. His voice was low and resonant. I knelt on both knees, solemnly bowing my head to the floor. Yes, Grandpa Mu. Please, my voice choked with suppressed sobs, help me seek justice. The elder stroked his white beard, a flicker of scrutiny flashing in his eyes. I've heard a little about your situation. I heard you married a poor girl. What? Regretting it now. Seeing me silent, he sighed softly. If it's just a simple marital spat, it's not my place to interfere. If I stick up for you today, tomorrow you'll be regretting it. That's not it. I looked up sharply. She killed my father and my brother. Please help me. The ancestral hall fell terrifyingly silent. The expressions of the few attendants standing nearby changed. Grandpa Mu's expression turned serious. Are you serious? Tears streamed down my face, uncontrollable. It's the absolute truth. Half a month ago, my father died in a car accident. But his driver had been with him for 30 years and had never had an accident. 18 days ago, my brother fell down the stairs. But he was athletic since childhood, so sure-footed. I gritted my teeth. These were not accidents. Mr. Harrison Sterling narrowed his eyes. You mean? I heard Eleanor Vance arranging it myself, I said hoarsely. You damn fool. Mr. Harrison Sterling slammed the table. Outrageous. The mighty Carter family, trampled under her feet like this. I gave a bitter laugh. It gets worse. She's convinced my father killed her parents years ago, so she got close to me, just for revenge. Mr. Sterling, I knelt down heavily, please help me get to the bottom of what happened back then. If my dad truly committed this wrong, I'll accept it. But if not. I looked up, wiping away tears. I want her to pay the price. Mr. Harrison Sterling nodded, a flicker of pity in his eyes. Son, I understand. You can stay at Sterling Manor for now. Just as he finished speaking, a slender figure slowly emerged from the shadows of the study. I instinctively looked up and saw an elegant woman standing there. She wore a sharply cut beige dress, the smooth lines of the waist outlining a captivating curve in the light. As she came closer, I saw her face clearly, porcelain white skin, a delicate jawline, and a pair of striking eyes that sparkled like stars. Grandfather, she said, her voice cool and clear like jade. Catherine, Mr. Harrison Sterling introduced, this is the young man from the Carter family. He'll be staying with us from now on, so please look after him. Catherine Sterling's gaze lingered on me briefly. Her eyes were as calm as a pool of autumn water. She gave a slight nod. Come with me. She showed me around Sterling Manor. Passing a corridor, she suddenly stopped. It gets windy here at night. Remember to close the windows. Grandfather said your grandfather did him a great favor. Her voice remained cool. So if you need anything while you're here, you can ask me. She pushed open an ornate wooden door. Inside was a uniquely decorated bedroom. The room held a faint scent of sandalwood. A freshly picked lily sat in a vase on the table. Get some rest. With that, she turned and left. I sat on the edge of the bed, my fingers unconsciously stroking the blanket. Thinking of everything Eleanor Vance had done, the familiar sharp pain returned to my heart. But in this strange room, I felt a sense of security I hadn't felt in a long time. I sat on a stone bench in the Sterling Manor garden, idly tossing fish food into the pond. Goldfish vied to leap out of the water, splashing my clothes. Suddenly, a subtle, elegant perfume drifted by. Catherine Sterling's slender figure stood in the morning light. Today she wore a gray suit dress that made her skin look like snow. There's a result for what you asked me to investigate. Her voice was cool and pleasant. I shot up, scattering fish food everywhere. What did you find? She handed me a file. The Willow Creek development project back then was indeed initiated by your father. But the person actually in charge on site was your distant cousin. My fingers tightened unconsciously, the paper rustling slightly. Due to relocation disputes, your cousin clashed with the villagers. Catherine Sterling's voice trembled slightly. 2 villagers died, and a large sum of money was paid to suppress it. My heart sank. Even though it wasn't my father's direct fault, Eleanor Vance's parents did die because of the relocation. A few days later, the top floor of the most luxurious hotel in Capital City, a pot-bellied man was surrounded by women, his greasy hands roaming over them. When the door was kicked open, the lecherous grin hadn't left his face. Catherine Sterling strode in with several bodyguards and slammed the man onto the table. I followed behind and saw the man's face full of terror. Who are you people? Do you know who I am? He struggled and yelled. I'm part of the Carter family. I sneered. You think you're worthy of the Carter name? Catherine Sterling didn't bother with words, pulling out a gun and pressing it to his temple. The man instantly went limp, his pants soaked. I'll talk. I'll tell you everything, he wailed. Mr. Carter assigned the project to Mr. Henderson back then. Those villagers refused to move, and we lost millions every day we were delayed. I wasn't thinking straight. Catherine Sterling put away the gun and motioned for the bodyguards to drag him away. Save those words for the police. Otherwise, your wife and kids in Australia. The man suddenly knelt down heavily, pleading, don't touch my son. I'll say anything. I turned away in disgust, not wanting to look at him any longer. Even now, all he could think about was his son, not a word about his wife. The police arrived quickly. As they cuffed him, he was still crying out, don't touch my son. I admit everything. Eleanor Vance pushed open the hospital room door and found it terrifyingly quiet inside. She hurried to the bedside, only to find the bed empty. A signed divorce agreement lay on the nightstand. The bathroom door was wide open, but there was no one there either. Her heart suddenly raced. With trembling fingers, she pulled out her phone and dialed the number she knew by heart, only to get a message that it was switched off. She opened Weshit again and saw that Robert Carter's profile picture had gone black. She sent a message, where did you go? The next second, a red exclamation mark popped up. Eleanor Vance's heart plummeted. In the surveillance room, 2 security guards were sweating nervously. Ms. Vance, the surveillance cameras in this room and the corridor were deliberately damaged some time ago and can't be fully recovered. She mobilized everyone to search the entire city, but Robert Carter had vanished as if into thin air. Returning to the mansion, Eleanor Vance stood in the center of the living room, and suddenly felt like this home was terrifyingly unfamiliar. Their wedding photos on the wall were gone, and all his favorite small trinkets had disappeared too. Brandon Adams called, whining about wanting a new car. Annoyed, she hung up immediately. A wave of unprecedented panic surged through her. She shook her head hard, trying to banish the unsettling thoughts. No, I'm not wrong. Her father was the one who first. She choked on her words halfway through. She clutched her chest, a sharp pain radiating from there. One day, her office door was suddenly pushed open. Ms. Vance. You need to see the news. Sarah pointed at the TV, her expression panicked. The TV was airing a special report, latest developments regarding the Willow Creek relocation incident. The former project manager, David Miller, pleaded guilty today, admitting to using violent means that led to the deaths of 2 villagers back then. Eleanor Vance shot up from her chair, then fell back down heavily. Her fingers trembled uncontrollably, her mind a blank. The hatred that had sustained her for all these years suddenly lost its anchor. For years, she had relied on her burning hatred to keep herself going. She hated the Carter family, hated them for destroying her family. She worked tirelessly, endured the scorn of her relatives, and painstakingly got into college. She and Robert Carter met on campus. To be precise, she deliberately approached him. He seemed so innocent, so passionate. Seeing him kneel before his father, vowing to marry only her, she even thought about abandoning her revenge. But every time she remembered her parents, dying because of the Carter family, her surging hatred made her suppress her feelings for him. It wasn't until Robert Carter went abroad that she accidentally met Brandon Adams at the Velvet Room. Brandon Adams said his parents were also from Willow Creek, that they had died a few years ago, and that due to financial hardship, he worked at a nightclub entertaining guests. Hearing him recount a similar experience that night, after drinking too much, things got out of hand, and everything changed. Bang! Eleanor Vance slammed her fist onto the office desk. Glass shards cut her skin, blood flowed, but she felt no pain. Did you find out where Robert is? She asked hoarsely. Sarah said cautiously, yes, we found out. Robert is at Sterling Manor. Catherine Sterling found an excellent cemetery, surrounded by hills and water. I reburied my parents, and Michael Carter, my brother, ashes here. Standing on the hill, watching the clouds drift by, feeling the mountain breeze on my face, the pent-up pain in my heart seemed to dissipate with the wind. Catherine Sterling stood quietly to the side, watching me light the incense and candles. Thank you, I said softly. If it weren't for you, my parents might have forever carried this wrongful accusation. No need to thank me, she said, her voice cool. Grandfather said your grandfather saved his life. This is what we should do. As we were talking, sudden hurried footsteps approached. Robert. Eleanor Vance stood not far away, her eyes red-rimmed, her face etched with pain and remorse. She reached out to grab me, but Catherine Sterling blocked her way. Eleanor Vance's expression changed. Robert, who is she? I looked at her coldly. Who she is none of your business. Eleanor Vance's face instantly turned pale. I've been looking for you, for so long. I'm sorry. Her voice was trembling uncontrollably. I didn't respond, just watched her with icy eyes. Oh. And. Am I supposed to be grateful? Thank you for killing my father, and Michael Carter, my brother. Her voice choked. All these years, I genuinely believed your father killed my parents. So you'd rather believe your own fantasies, than ask me for confirmation. I sneered. So for a man obsessed with the Velvet Room, you took away my right to be a father. She flinched. He said you forced him back to the Velvet Room. He said he was beaten bloody there, he said. I curled my lip in mockery. Since when do you believe a man from the Velvet Room over your own husband's explanation? I took him back because he told me himself that was his home. Eleanor Vance looked as if she'd been struck by lightning, her whole body trembling violently. When she realized he had destroyed my ability to have children, her face went instantly white. Forgive me, please give me a chance to make amends. She fell to her knees, her voice broken. Forgive. I looked at her calmly. Unless you jump off this hill. Who would have thought? A flicker of release flashed in her eyes, and she jumped without hesitation. I stumbled back, and Catherine Sterling steadied me. Having second thoughts, she asked softly. No, I shook my head. Just that she's pathetic and ridiculous. Eleanor Vance broke both her legs, and was bedridden for 2 months. After she recovered, she started coming to Sterling Manor day after day, bringing flowers and various expensive gifts. But each time, the Sterling Manor bodyguards ruthlessly turned her away. One day, I was at a luxury store picking out jewelry. Brandon Adams suddenly appeared before me, a smug look he couldn't hide on his face. Well, isn't it Mr. Carter? Heard you ran away from home and are living at another woman's place. He deliberately raised his voice. The Carter family is wiped out, about to go bankrupt. Where are you getting the money for such expensive things? Several customers nearby heard him, and immediately cast strange glances my way. Isn't this sugar baby being kept by that mistress? Brandon Adams covered his mouth, feigning a laugh. Robert Carter, if you can't afford it, I'll pay for you. I ignored him, but he grabbed my wrist. That watch on your wrist looks so new, could it be? He suddenly yelled, stolen. The crowd instantly stirred. He looks decent, but he's a thief. Brandon Adams smugly pulled out his black card. Fine, I'll pay for you. Eleanor Vance's name was printed on the card. A moment later, a store employee came over, looking awkward. I'm sorry, sir, this card has been frozen. What? Brandon Adams' voice suddenly rose. Just then, Catherine Sterling appeared at the entrance. What's going on? The employees immediately stood straight, respectfully. Miss Sterling. Brandon Adams pointed at me and yelled, he's stealing. People watching outside the store had already started taking pictures. Catherine Sterling chuckled softly. This is my store. She walked over to me. He is my friend. He can take anything he wants. Someone outside whistled. Ha ha, schooled. Brandon Adams' face turned green then white. He rushed out the door awkwardly, only to bump right into someone. Ms. Vance. He saw who it was and immediately complained tearfully, where have you been these past few days? He pointed at the luxury store. Mr. Carter's with some strange woman, and she's mocking me. As he spoke, he tried to lean on Eleanor Vance. But Eleanor Vance suddenly pushed him away. Brandon Adams staggered a few steps and fell heavily to the ground. Blood. He's bleeding. A cry of alarm erupted from the crowd. Brandon Adams dazedly raised a hand to touch his forehead, his fingertips meeting something warm and sticky. Eleanor Vance paid no mind to the suffering Brandon Adams on the ground and rushed straight towards me. She was thinner than the last time, her cheekbones prominent, her eyes sunken. Her voice was hoarse. Robert, please, come home. Home. I sneered. Eleanor Vance, you're the one who destroyed our home, with your own hands. She tried to say something else, but Brandon Adams clung desperately to her leg. Ms. Vance. I'm bleeding. I'm going to die. Help me. I turned and walked away without hesitation. A few days later, hospital surveillance footage was delivered to Sterling Manor. In the footage, Brandon Adams furtively pulled out Michael Carter, my brother's breathing tube. I clenched my fists. In the utility room at Sterling Manor, Eleanor Vance's assistant, Sarah, was tied to a chair, covered in injuries. Catherine Sterling toyed with a dagger, her voice cold as ice. Tell me everything Eleanor Vance had you do, tell me word for word, and I'll let you live. The assistant opened his mouth and spat out a mouthful of blood. He confessed everything, word for word. My father's car accident, Michael Carter, my brother's accident, it was all orchestrated by Eleanor Vance. I sat numbly in the garden for a long time, until Catherine Sterling walked over and placed a candy in my palm. I flinched involuntarily. Her eyes darkened. What's wrong? Seen my methods for interrogating people. Are you afraid of me? No. I shook my head. She suddenly took my hand. Robert, do you remember? Years ago, at a formal event, a girl fell into the pond. You jumped in. I looked up at her. It was hard to connect this beautiful woman before me, with the thin little girl in my memory. Are you willing to give me a chance? She gently brushed the hair from my forehead. Seeing me silent, she said softly, it's all right. I can wait. She continued, I know you're going through a lot right now. I'll be here for you, to get through these difficult times. 3 months later, Catherine Sterling and I were married. The morning before the wedding, I went alone to the cemetery on the hill. The morning dew hadn't yet dispersed. I gently wiped my parents' photos, telling them the good news that the company had recovered. Eleanor Vance sent someone to deliver a photo of us from when we first met, wanting to see me one last time. I threw the photo into the fire. On the wedding day, I wore a sharp suit, looking at my renewed self in the mirror. Meanwhile, a police car was taking Eleanor Vance and Brandon Adams towards the prison. Later, I heard Eleanor Vance had ended her life in prison. Outside the window, in the garden, the roses my father loved most were in full bloom. The pain of the past had all dissipated with the wind.